always a long one.
That's an unfortunate way to start the podcast.
It's always very long. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a lovely conversation that we were just having. I'm Dov. As you probably know, Conor Clancy's here with me. Padraig Whelan's here with me. You could not hear them before, but hopefully you can hear them now. If people can let me know when they get onto the stream that everybody can hear everybody else, we'll get fired in. Conor, how was your pizza? We'll talk about a bit of rubbish for a couple of minutes and let people jump over from the other. It
was surprisingly quite nice, Oven pizzas usually don't hit the standards.
You said off air that you didn't enjoy it.
Yeah, but I'm having time to reflect on it now, Padraig, and I'm quite happy with the purchase that was made. I didn't expect it to be as nice as it was, but by the end, I'm quite happy.
Sounds like a coach's. You just signed so I couldn't even think of a player there. But you've seen Nikola Kalinic and wasn't expecting him to be that good. Surprised my expectations.
Let's be honest, nobody has ever been surprised by the quality of Nikola Kalinic.
Yeah,
he scored at the weekend. He's a Milan legend now. I got a standing ovation when he got substituted. That's how good he was.
Because people were delighted that he got substituted. Good decision.
That's not very nice. Nikola Kalinic is a lovely guy.
Yeah, I don't know why we're starting off picking on Kalinic, but
I don't know why we're doing that either. That's not very nice. We're a nice bunch of lads, Paddy. We're a nice bunch of lads. Hopefully everybody can hear us now. Right. So obviously everybody knows that the Serie A season has finished because Juventus have got the title. Basically, that's when we know the Serie A season's finished, when Juventus lift the Scudetto trophy. Yeah. And obviously, they won the Coppa Italia again. Best team in Italy, 7 in a row, 4th double in a row. Juve are amazing. But, Paddy, the best thing about this was that we had a Scudetto race. That was the greatest thing. We got Napoli v Juve for pretty much the whole season. A knockout battle. I was like watching UFC. That's how good it was.
Yeah. I was trying to come up with a way to fit a clever Conor McGregor joke in there. There's just not one coming to me, Dov. But it was almost like a UFC bout, and just two great fighters or teams going toe-to-toe for most of the season. I think, as you said, that was what we all wanted before the season started. We just, after so much Juve dominance in recent seasons, we wanted that title challenge, and hats off to Napoli. They really provided it. It's a surprise that I think I was talking to you before the season ended, that after the way the season had gone, it was quite a surprise that it didn't actually go down to the final weekend, especially after the result in Turin when Napoli went there and won. I think we were all expecting one that went right down to the wire. It was almost odd that we didn't quite get that, but we did get the title race we wanted for pretty much the whole season. And hats off to Napoli. I think that they registered their highest ever points total, the most ever for a team that actually didn't go on to win the Scudetto in the end. But I think, unfortunately for them, it was Juve's second highest ever total they've ever managed in Serie A. So just goes to show you that no matter what you seem to throw at them, and Napoli threw a record-breaking season at Juve, and Juve still find a way to do it. So what can you do? But hats off to them, though.
What can you do? Conor, Juventus, obviously, I still think they're head and shoulders above every team in Serie A. Obviously, they proved that this season, where they did what they do. They just win. Do you think this was a Scudetto, their hardest Scudetto, and one that they very much deserved? Nobody can hear him.
I can't hear him this time.
Nobody can hear him anymore. This is Conor Clancy. I can see him swearing though in his wee kitchen or wherever.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we can hear you now, Conor.
The old trick of plugging it out and plugging it back in seemed to.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So Conor, what I asked you there is why are Atalanta rubbish?
I can hear you, Dov, and I know that's not true. But I can't remember what the actual question was now, to be honest.
I bet Juve just been amazing and deserving the Scudetto, and like obviously this was their hardest one. Like, does this just show you how good Juve are and that they totally deserved it?
Well, it's hard to argue against any team that wins a league title deserving it. You could probably say it about a cup competition, but when it's a league season and it's over 38 games, it's almost impossible to argue against it. And the expectation every season is that Juventus win the Scudetto. So I don't know if Juventus have been all that brilliant compared to what we expected of them, but the fact that Napoli were the first ever club to finish second with 91 points would suggest that Juventus had to step into that extra gear, and they did it. But it is slightly depressing from a neutral's point of view that you can see a team have as good a season as Napoli did, which has kind of been lost in recent weeks. People are kind of quick to slag off Napoli and Sarri, but that a team can do as well as they did and get 91 points and still not win the Scudetto, it's tough to take, and it kind of leaves you questioning the point of every other club's existence. But
well, hold on, like that's not fair, because it's not Juve's fault that all the other clubs are crap. Juve they've got their own stadium, the first team in Italy to do that, which makes them a ton of money. They're the best organized, and that's just not just kind of playing wise and transfers and stuff like that. The whole club is the best organized club in the country. And because of that, they're able to then go and buy the best players. An example is, obviously, this kind of relates a little bit. Obviously, they just had their first season of the women's first division, and they just bought all the best players because of Juve, and they won the title, I think, the other day. And because of the way they're organized and how well they're run, a great coach they've got, kind of great directors and stuff like that, that's how they're so good. And it's up to the other teams to match that, in my opinion. And if they're not good enough to match that, that's not Juve's fault.
No, of course, but that's a slightly different. But I wasn't trying to say it's Juve's fault that everything. Like,
don't say that.
It is, but it's probably the biggest compliment you can pay them, because they are just so far ahead of everyone else. And Napoli, if you look at Napoli and kind of break it into its parts, they've got a coach who 10 years ago was nothing. Players who before this season weren't all that much. The stadium is a disgrace, as we were talking about off air. And
should we go Donald Trump and call it a shithole?
I'm glad you said it, not me. But no,
it's not a gold-leafed mansion, is it? It's dilapidated. Would be a nicer word.
No, but yeah, it is. You do have to give credit to Juventus, as painfully repetitive as that has become, and it gets increasingly more difficult to do it every year, when in reality our praise should only intensify every year, because they just prove every single season that they are so far above everyone else in Serie A.
Yeah, I think you're right there, Conor. I think Juve should actually be getting more praise the longer that they do this, because that it is just not an easy thing to do, like in any league, no matter where you are. But the fact that Serie A it's always been a notoriously difficult league to win. I suppose not so much now, but if you go back maybe 20 years or so, and you had Roma winning it, Lazio winning it, you had Milan winning it, Juve. You had a lot of teams winning it in a short space of time. And the fact that Serie A always has these big clubs, and whether they're playing well or not, there is a lot of history and massive clubs in the league. And for Juve to do 7 in a row, it's never been done before in a league this difficult. I think the longer it goes on, the more praise they actually should be getting. Yeah.
I can think of one country where it's pretty easy to win the league.
I was careful to say that it is not easy in any country, no matter which.
Our Celtic, they must be on like 15 in a row by now. No?
Same as Juve.
It's like two clubs mirroring each other.
That's why these clubs deserve such great praise, Dov. It's not easy to do.
Do actually, I'm just looking at the live comments, and Aaron Holland is a regular commenter, and he's come in with a good point, saying that we're talking about matching Juve, yet we're still at the point where all the other clubs are talked about in a conversation of, I hope we don't sell and I hope he stays. Whereas Juve keep the players they want to keep and let go of those they don't.
Well, that comes down to the financial power of Serie A. Serie A doesn't have financial power. Even Juventus don't have financial power. If say, for example, Barcelona, Real Madrid, or Man City, or a team like that who have financial clout want Paul Pogba or Alexandro or somebody like that, they can buy them, and Juve can't stop these guys leaving because they have more financial clout than teams in Italy, but in kind of a European context, they're still a bit behind, and that's because the clubs in Serie A are so badly marketed that they're so far behind. If you an example is look at the TV deal, the for domestic the TV rights, that's still not done yet, and the season starts in 2.5 months. And nobody knows
Even
where
the
you can
fact
watch
that
it.
Roma, it took them to get to a Champions League final before someone come on as a sponsor. That was just staggering to me.
Yeah,
That was yeah. So like, how can one of the biggest clubs in Serie A go that long without a main shirt sponsor? It's just.
Qatar Airways were probably thinking, like, changing their mind afterwards, like, wait a minute.
Well, what have we done?
Yeah, exactly. Like you never see a Premier League team without a shirt sponsor, and if they did have one, it'd be like the biggest shirt sponsorship deal in the history of the world. Whereas here, the money isn't there. They've got a great domestic TV deal, but internationally, the rights aren't there. In terms of marketing and stuff like that, and merchandising, the money doesn't come in. So that's basically what you have to do when you've got kind of teams like no offense, like West Ham and things like that. West Ham shouldn't be competing realistically with likes of Inter for players. Inter should always be like, yeah, if we want him, we're going to have him. End of story. But it doesn't work like that. So there you go. Should we talk about Napoli a bit then? Because Connor, you alluded to this, that people are slagging Napoli off a bit, but they had their best ever season, ever in the history of the world, ever. So we should be talking about how fantastic and wonderful Napoli are because they've done so good.
I kind of come down on both sides of this argument, I think.
You can't do that. You've got to come on one side. You can't go to the voting booth on Friday and go yes, no, because I come down on both sides. No, that's not how it works.
Typical Dom, I like it.
Let me try and explain. Yeah, but that's going to be lost on everyone listening to this podcast, with the exception of me and Padraig, probably. But right, I'm tempted to have a go at Sarri because, as we said in the now lost episode, he kind of got his excuses in as early as he could. He was given out about Juventus always playing, was it before Napoli?
Yeah, before Napoli, and Napoli didn't get the chance to put the pressure on.
Exactly, but then Allegri just threw back at him, well, we're competing in 2 competitions. If you want to compete in just one competition, go back to Serie A. And Allegri is so right. And Sarri was criticised for not rotating his squad. But then when you actually look at the squad, the only rotations he could really make would have been to bring in Milik for Mertens and maybe Diawara for, I don't know, Jorginho, and Zielinski played every game, but 35 minutes of every game. So I do think you can't not praise Napoli. They've got the 5th biggest budget in Serie A. They were head and shoulders above everybody in Serie A with the exception of one team. And when you look at this league table in a few years, it's probably going to stand out as a bit of an anomaly because I can't see anyone else pushing Juventus this close and not winning. I think the next team to get over 90 points in Serie A wins. I don't think there's going to be 2 teams finishing with more than 91 points in the foreseeable future. And look, Napoli have been really enjoyable to watch this year. The fact that they've given us this title race is an achievement in itself. I don't want to turn into like an Arsenal fan celebrating 4th place or something, but it is hard to knock them given how far they pushed Juve, and the fact that they beat Juventus in a huge game at the end of the season as well just kind of adds to it.
Well, the kind of what you said there about them, Sarri saying that they lost the Scudetto in the hotel room, which I think points to a problem with mentality, because I think the weekend, or not even the weekend, the day or the couple of hours where the Scudetto race turned was on the 3rd of March when Juve scored the 93rd minute winner against Lazio, and then on the same night, Roma came from behind to beat Napoli or smash Napoli at the San Paolo. And if you look at Napoli results from then, they're scraping wins against Chievo and like 2 goals in the last minute, drawing against Sassuolo, drawing against like Milan, and like drawing against Torino. Like if you go through the results and how they got those results as well, it's almost as if from then they were keeping their heads above water and just trying to kind of claw into Juventus's coattails a little bit. Whereas before them, they were fantastic. They were brilliant. So,
I think it's harsh enough, though, Dov, to knock their mentality. And I know what you're saying, and even as I say it, they did win it with a last-minute goal. But even after the game that weekend you mentioned, which I agree with you, actually, I think that was where the Scudetto was won for Juve, because it could have went from, I think it was like a 1 point to within a 1 point to almost a 7-point swing the other way. But the fact that they went to Juve towards the end of the season and left with a win, I think it'd be harsh to, I think, criticise the mentality for that. That was huge to go there and say, no, we are still in this title race, and albeit what happened after that, maybe you can knock the mentality again. But I think going there in such a massive game, I think they deserve all the credit in the world for that, going there and keeping the title race alive, even if it was just for another week, I suppose.
If we are going to raise questions, though, about Sarri in particular, it would be about the fact that he persisted with Dries Mertens in the last couple of months, despite Milik being back and having more fitness than Mertens. Because every time you watch Napoli, pretty much after that weekend in early March, Mertens could barely move. And he kept playing him. And I don't have the statistics to hand, but I know after the first half of the season, Mertens, he wasn't even scoring anywhere near as much as he should have been, considering how good he had been for the 18 months before that. And every time the team sheet came out, you just knew Mertens was going to be starting, and it did become infuriating. Hamsik probably, rather than playing 60 minutes every week, maybe they should have picked and chosen when he played a little bit better. But I'm probably nitpicking now at this point, because
I think it's a fair point, though, because I think they played the same starting 11. I think it was 11 games, which was more than anyone else. And 11 games out of 38 game season, when you factor in like suspensions and injuries, that's still quite a lot of games for a coach to persist with the same team. And I know it was something that you saw Napoli fans, even throughout the season, not even towards the end when it was gone, but throughout the season, they were criticising Sarri, saying this could come back to haunt us. This could be something that by the time the end of the season comes around, that the lads are just maybe going to be dead on their feet. And when you say, Dov, maybe it was mental as well, but maybe it was physical fatigue after that game in early March, that they had a lot of players had clocked up a lot of minutes in their legs. And it wasn't even this season, even the season before, if you look at the team, it was a lot of the same players even last season that were in the side and playing week in, week out. I mean, you could almost list off the Reina, Hisai, Koulibaly and just go right through the team, that you knew what Napoli's, well, at least preferred starting 11 was going to be every single week.
There was that statistic, I think it was before the Juve-Napoli game in Turin, that Napoli's regular outfield players had played over 24,000 minutes this season, whereas Juve's had only played 17,000. And I don't know if that took into account the European games as well, but that is striking. And it does suggest, I wonder how things would have gone had Napoli had the ability to sign players in January. And I think if we're going to blame people, it probably all comes back to De Laurentiis, because he makes it so difficult for people to actually sign for that club because of the image rights situation, because he's into his film and stuff like that. And they probably should have done more to make sure Simone Verdi went to the club in January. There was the guy Amin Younes from Ajax, I think, who went and then didn't go. And there's always these stories every single transfer window about players who are about to sign for Napoli and then they don't. And
that goes back to the point about how the club's been well run, because that doesn't happen with Juve, for example. If Juve wants somebody, they get them.
Yeah, of course.
And that's it. End of story. Done deal. There's no pissing about. It's that we want him, we're going to get him. If we can't get him, we've got somebody else that will come in instead. Whereas the situation, for example, we see with Verdi, you're just like, well, if they want him, they had an offer on the table. I think Bologna pretty much had accepted it, and he decided he didn't want to go because he didn't know if he was going to play or not. And then, like you say, there's obviously other contractual issues which people don't like so much. So that's probably a little bit of it. But I still think you should give Sarri gets immense credit for the way that Napoli played this season, for what he managed to do with them this season as well. And I think we're kind of picking at, it wasn't like they were 25 points behind and absolutely got destroyed. It literally is like a couple of games, 2 games. If they won instead of drawn, they win the league.
That's it. I
That's
really,
how fine the margins are.
I really don't want it to seem like I am just criticizing Sarri, because I've been a huge fan of everything he's done there. The progression season on season during his time at Napoli has been amazing, and it's not going to be the same watching them next season, should, as it seems to be the case, Ancelotti comes in and he moves on, because Napoli are the way they are because of Maurizio Sarri, and without him they wouldn't have been second place this season. And the fact that they were even within 4 points of Juventus is huge. And to get 91 points, as we said earlier, to be the first team to get 91 points and not win the league it's an amazing achievement, as heartbreaking as it is.
But next season they just need to win all their games, then they'll win it and it'll be fine. So there you go.
No, those Juve will still find a way.
They will probably. I want to touch a bit on Roma, because moving away from the Scudetto race. Well done, Juve, fantastic. They are #myth with a 7 in it. #myth with a 7.
Can I just take a minute to?
You can take however long you want, Conor Clancy.
I just want to say the number 34. That's it.
Well, actually, talking about that, let's talk about that, because that's a fun one. Because it's kind of like, I don't know if you guys have heard, but there was one of the Italian journalists was interviewing Chiellini after they won the league. I think it was the second last day of the season. They did their TV interview, and obviously Chiellini had said, "Oh yeah, it's a great title, number 36." And the journalist stopped him and was like, "Giorgio, it's all good for fans to say things like that. They're fans, and that's kind of what fans do. But 34." And the kind of look on his face was a bit like, right, okay. Didn't really know how to respond to it, because officially it is 34. And I don't want to get into a Calciopoli conversation with people, because it's a pain in the arse and stupid. But officially, Juventus have won 34 titles, and that's the end of the story. And then there was I think there was a Neapolitan lawyer who, this is a bit of a silly story, but I like the premise of it, I think is good. It says Juventus are part of Lega Serie A. Lega Serie A officially recognised Juventus as having 34 titles. However, Juventus persists with his 36. So this guy was saying basically Juventus should have points deducted, get fines, or have players banned or whatever. If players are kind of like Chiellini saying the 136 and stuff like that, because it goes completely against what the official line is in terms of the league. And I think it's this thing. Yeah, every single year, it's basically a pain in the arse about how many titles have Juve won, and it's basically going to be like that forever.
I completely agree with him. It's funny that it came from a Neapolitan source, but this is a point that
where else is it going to come from?
Yeah, but this is the point that I've said before, that every time Juventus do this, Lega Serie A should just be like, right, you're starting -5 points next season, because you're just disrespecting the whole organization, every other club in Serie A, and it's only Juventus and their fans that are convincing.
No, their fans can do it. Their fans can do it. That's fine.
Of course. But when
it's the official club party line, which
that's it. But obviously, the fans are going to go along with whatever their club says. And if you ask any club in Italy how many Scudetti have Juventus won, they'll all say 34, except for them. And if Lega Serie A say it's 34, it's 34, no questions. You had those titles taken away from you for good reason. I know their players will argue to the death that they won them on the pitch, and they are probably within their rights to feel that way, but we know that it is not true. They won those titles for reasons that go beyond that.
The title should be to nobody, and I think that there should be a party line of, right, it's 34, end of story, and that's it. Otherwise, basically from now until the end of time, you're just going to have these silly arguments that are inane, and you end up going into what happened to Calciopoli, and everybody gets angry about it and blah, blah, blah. Basically, that was a horrible time in the time football, and it was a bit of a joke then, apart from when they won the World Cup. That was amazing.
I was going to say, it gave us the World Cup in the end, didn't it? So.
Exactly, that was fun, but I think at the end of the day, somebody should have a word. I think they did not do that when they did 30 and they had their 30 Sul Campo thing.
Yeah, 30 on the pitch.
But they didn't put the star on, because I think Lega Serie A told them, like, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
When they had like 28 official ones, but they had 30 in their eyes. So they did their 30 Sul Campo thing, which was funny. Although Napoli had a thing like one of their fans had a banner or something like that. It said like champions on the pitch or something like that, like Campionati sul campo or something. I was like, yeah, very good. That was funny. Right. Let's talk about Roma eventually. Their season was essentially the Champions League. Aaron Holland has already said Forza Roma, so he's loving it. Serie A, or like Paddy, Serie A seemed almost like a bit of a distraction for them.
Yeah, it's hard to know where to start with Roma's season, because I think any season that an Italian team gets to a Champions League semi-final, that is an impressive season. Any team not called Juve that does it with the resources that Roma have compared to Barcelona, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, all these other massive European super, that was incredible. I did not see it coming for Roma, and they did have it the hard way. You know, the group stage they had with Chelsea, Atletico Madrid. I think going into that group, you'd have said if they finished third, perhaps not a major issue. Drop into Europa League, have a good run in that. They got out of the group. Tough game against Shakhtar, the last 16. Probably deserved to win it over there. Having played well, and then the second half, you had Alisson made some unbelievable saves. I think Bruno Perez had one off the line. So as the game got towards the end, rode their luck, got them back, eliminated them. I think the Barcelona game, everything's been said about that probably needs to be said. And then get into the Champions League semi-final, and then you compare it obviously with the Serie A form. I still think it was a good season for them. You know, I think they only lost one away game in the league all year, which that's a very good record. And they did what they had to do. I suppose they still secured Champions League football. The thing I want to see from Roma, and it's probably being greedy because we said at the start of last season that we wanted a title race. Now I want more teams in the title race. Now I want Juve and Napoli and Roma and Inter and Milan, and maybe being greedy, but you see leagues like Turkey where they have 4 or 5 teams up there every year. So that's what I want from them now on. And I think that Di Francesco's a great coach. I think he did really well his debut season. I think he's going to get more out of them. That particular group of players, I think it's probably a big summer for them in terms of some areas they need to improve. But yeah, I'm quite excited and optimistic about what Roma are going to do going forward.
Well, the Champions League, like the kind of the run is like a blessing in disguise, because it gives them that extra bit of cash where normally they would have to sell somebody, and now they probably don't, and they can strengthen the squad maybe a bit as well.
That's what I mean by a huge summer, because you saw even last summer with Salah, and I know he's probably done things that maybe even Liverpool fans didn't expect him to do, but they had to sell him simply because that was the model. And like you said, that I think that's what's going to be massive for them, is that they are in a position now where maybe they can say no to the likes of Chelsea in January coming in for Dzeko and that kind of thing, and instead of selling, build on what's been a really good season.
I'm really glad you mentioned Di Francesco there when you were going on for a couple of minutes, because I was just waiting to jump in, because I remember myself and Nick did a video back last summer when the kind of trio of changes happened. What Spalletti, Di Francesco, and I think Pioli went to Fiorentina around the same time. And we were thinking that this was just going to be a massive transitional season for Roma, and that getting into the Champions League was going to be difficult for them. So for them to have, I know it was a kind of a 3-way race between them, Lazio and Inter for a while, but for the last couple of weeks, it was very much a 2-horse race with Roma consolidating in third. And for them to do that as well as they did in the Champions League is an amazing first season. And it's a shame that Di Francesco got it so tactically wrong in that first leg against Liverpool, because other than that, he's been pretty flawless this season. And I do think they have every reason to be excited coming into next season, especially with Nangolan not going to the World Cup. He'll be coming back fresh and maybe won't have as many people chasing him.
And I think if he can get a few decent signings in, that Bruno Perez is going to leave. Aaron Holland says he wants another wing back, so Florenzi can get up a little bit as well.
That's something I actually would like to see. You almost forget now at this stage that Florenzi, when he started out at Roma, I think he's centre midfielder, and then he played on the right of the front three. That I think he's a lot better going forward than he is defensively. I'd quite like to see that as well. If Florenzi got a chance to to move a bit further up the park. I think that is a good point.
Well, they've got Karsdorp, who they bought last summer, who's basically been injured forever.
The whole season.
So he could come back.
They still own Mario Rui as well, don't they? Get Super Mario back.
Hey, Mario Ruiz I think he's got the third most passes or touches of the ball this season in all of Serie A. Mario Ruiz.
If Roma want a wing back who touches the ball a lot,
there you go. He's all about it. Touches per 90 minutes. Mario Rui is third in all of Serie A with 106 behind Jorginho, Marek Hamsik. There you go. Mario Ruiz, where it's at, everybody. Right. Is it anybody else got to say anything? You can't really say much about Roma. I think Roma's season, actually, you know what we'll say about Roma? How bloody good is Alisson?
Oh, I thought you were going to say
what was I going to say?
Season coincided with a certain greatest player of all time, bar none, hanging off his boots.
There's two bits then. How good is it that Totti's gone? And do you think that's lifted Roma? Gave them a bit of breathing space, took the shackles off?
No.
Right.
It would be blasphemous of me to say so.
No, right. But Alisson, how good is Alisson? Alisson's amazing.
He is.
Paddy, what do you tell me how good Alisson is?
So good. And I was talking to a Liverpool supporting friend recently, and he was annoyed that Liverpool were being linked with Alisson because the only exposure he's had to the goalkeeper is the two legs that they played against each other, where of course he conceded 8 goals over the two legs. So he was kind of thinking, I don't want him, but Alisson is brilliant. He's an absolute monster. A lot of people who listen to this probably watch the Premier League as well and are wondering why Ederson isn't Brazil's number one, and that is because Alisson is that much better than him. He's so good. I think coming off his line maybe isn't the strongest point, but he's up there with the best shot stoppers in the world, really. I don't know if Padraig wants to.
Do you want to know how many saves he made in Serie A last season?
Of course.
109 saves. That's how many saves he made.
And Dov, I think he had the best save percentage of any goalkeeper.
79% of shots he saved. That's so good. Better than Buffon, better than Handanovic, better than Sorrentino. What a guy.
He's just the best goalkeeper in the league. I think biggest compliment you can pay him. I don't know in terms of.
I've got a better compliment. Aaron Holland has said Alisson is goalkeeping Jesus.
Now was me not wanting to be blasphemous.
There you go. So that's Alisson is goalkeeping Jesus. I think that kind of says a wee bit about, for me, Roma's season is when everybody's saying how good their best player for me this season was for them, Alisson, which I think maybe says a little bit about Roma, but not too much. That you can't say, Dzeko had a great season, or Nainggolan had a great season, or Strootman, or whoever. They all had very good seasons, but obviously Alisson was the best of the lot. And Under saved them for a little bit where they were going through a bit of bad form as well. So I think next season, he's one that could definitely step up.
Guys, I know we're going to get to the awards things, but has Cengiz Under been the most overrated player in Serie A this year? Because he was good for a few weeks, and that's it. And people are talking about him as if
he saved them for a few weeks. It was good. He saved them in terms of scoring goals to make sure they got points. I think that's maybe where the praise comes from. Because at the start, he didn't really play very much. And it's more towards that kind of period, I think it was January, February, March time, where he was scoring goals.
Do you want a good stat on Cengiz Under, Dov? Well, we're dishing them out. That Cengiz Under this season, he scored 7 goals in Serie A, and he was assisted by 7 different players. First time since 1962.
There you go.
Statistics. I don't know who'd sit count all of De Rossi gave him that one, and El Shaarawy gave him that one, but there's people out there that do it.
Before we move on from Roma, if that's the plan, I do think Federico Fazio deserves a lot of credit because he was laughed out of the Premier League. Spurs, he was out, wasn't he? And he was comically bad. Even at Roma in his early days, I remember being quite skeptical of him. But he has just been brilliant this season.
And then Luis Suarez and Messi are up to Olympico, and Fazio's just
please. Manolas gets all the credit for that, but Manolas has been so
rightly so. Rightly so. And alas, did the hard work.
Yeah, I want to just add one thing. That game was the best game I've ever been to in my entire life. That Barcelona game, bar none. I've never been to a better game than that. The greatest game. So there you go. Right, let's move on from Roma, Clancy. Let's talk about Inter, because Inter are amazing. I watched your live podcast that you did with Nicholas on Sunday night. He was a happy person. He was very happy. Normally he's depressed when he comes on and has to talk to you, but he was really loving it from there. Right, see, has there anybody got any comments? I'm sure I've seen one about Inter. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, Killian Lahar, he said, it has to be the best final day for a while, given the relegation battle and the Inter miracle. How good was the Inter miracle, Connor? How good was that? Were you jumping up and down? Were you just in shock and awe?
I was doing the report on that. And I remember when Inter got their third goal, my actual reaction was, oh, for fuck's sake, because it meant I had to change absolutely everything that I'd written. But it was pretty special. It was quite funny in that it was a flip reverse of what they had done to them by Juventus only a couple of weeks earlier. And that was the game that seemingly won the title for Juventus and blew Inter's Champions League chances. You saw Icardi crying. But no, that night, should we just tell people to go listen to the other night's podcast if they want like an immediate reaction to that? Because that was brilliant. And
if you want to do the immediate reaction, go and listen to the podcast before this one. But I did a video with Vieri today talking about Inter and their season. And the thing that we kind of deduced from it was that Inter, basically through the majority of the campaign, were pretty rubbish in terms of performances. You never thought, wow, what a great performance from Inter. Oh my God, they were amazing. For most of the time, it was just like, yeah, they kind of did what they're supposed to do, kind of almost workmanlike to an extent. And for me, the best performance they did was the one against Juve when they were down to 10 men. Is that something, Paddy, you'd agree with? That for most of the season, their workmanlike is probably the best description of them.
Yeah, it probably is. And, I think it says a lot that a lot of Inter's better players this season were maybe the defensive-minded ones. Skriniar had an amazing season. Cancelo, who obviously they're desperate to keep now. And obviously you have Icardi as well, who's rightly going to hit the headlines for finishing the top scorer. But it was kind of those defensive players who really kind of got a lot of the plaudits, and maybe that tells you a lot about Inter's season. But I think that was almost, to be expected from Spalletti, that it was almost the same with Roma in his final season, which I thought about it on Sunday night, was quite weird that he was involved in the same kind of a final day shootout for a Champions League spot at the Stadio Olimpico last season when Roma played Genoa. That ended 3-2 with a bit of late drama when Perotti scored. So I thought that was kind of an interesting parallel, that a year on he pretty much did the same trick, won a game 3-2 at the Olimpico to get a team into the Champions League. And it was, but it followed on from that. I thought that this season with Inter, it was quite like he had been with Roma, and that you're probably not going to watch them every week and say, oh, they really are joy to watch this week, like people did with Napoli. Obviously, they were picking up results, and that helps. But we're just picking up results and maybe sneaking results here and there, and had built up over the course of the season. I think it was their best points total since 2011. So that's big progress as well. Like you kind of, they were not, I don't think they were ever going to be in a Scudetto hunt or anything like that. But,
well, they were in December. They were top of the league, and everybody was saying, Scudetto, here we come. And
I don't think over the course of the season that was definitely not for Spalletti. I don't think coming into the season that was something he was going to had set out as a challenge for them. I think Champions League was, and they've done it, and you don't quite know how they're going to do in the Champions League. That'll be an interesting one for next season, because obviously now Italy has the 4 spots, and
they're straight in the group stage.
Yeah,
they've got the money's guaranteed, so they need to build on it.
Yeah, and they're going to have that Champions League money. It's just about, I think Rafinha, they're trying to keep him, and Cancelo. Maybe if they can kind of, I don't know what areas specifically they kind of
Well, they've got De Vrij coming in. De Vrij's coming in. Asamoah pretty much is done as well. And then was he Laurito Martinez or something from Argentina?
Laurito. That's an interesting one because you don't know how ready he's going to be for Serie A. When they signed Gabigol, and he was the next big thing from South America. And well, is he still an Inter? I think he is still officially an Inter player, but he's probably never going to make it at the San Siro now. So. He does seem a good young player, but he's probably not even going to be in the reckoning for next season. Probably end up on loan somewhere. I think that the squad overall probably need a lot more players, and even just for depth rather maybe than quality if they're going to be fighting on multiple fronts next season.
I think the key for Inter is that they get in a creative player, because Mauro Icardi is the only player who can score goals for them, and he doesn't even get too many chances created for him. He's so clinical. Perisic is obviously good. We don't know if he's still going to be there next year, but midfield is probably the place where they really need to improve next season. They brought in Borja Valero last year. Looks like a great signing. He's been pretty poor for them. Vecino is a good player. I don't know if he's a player that you want starting every week in the Champions League and Serie A if you want to push on and compete for the Scudetto. But if they can add a bit more depth in midfield, because as we said, Asamoah will probably come in. He can do a job in midfield and at left back. We've got De Vrij coming in centre back. They're gonna be worth watching next year. Their results, anyway, as Padraig alluded to, they're not always the nicest team to tune in and actually watch on the television every week.
But they're always good entertainment, Connor. That's the good thing about it. They always do. No, not in terms of how they play. In terms of just them imploding and being crap.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Doing an Inter, that's always fun to watch, because that's what we thought was going to happen. Or what almost looked like was happening this season when they got beat off Sassuolo, which is like, what the hell? A very positive note for Inter, Connor, I'm coming to you again. Milan Skriniar. How amazing is Milan Skriniar?
I did not see this coming. He's a joy. Him and Federico Fazio will be playing for Juventus in a couple of years in a back three with Mattia Caldara, and that's probably the biggest compliment.
What happened to Rugani, Connor?
Rugani's gone to pot. He's gone to pot, mate.
He's joining the big boys at Chievo soon.
No, but the biggest compliment you can pay to someone who plays well in Serie A is that they'll probably play for Juventus in a couple of years. And if Skriniar doesn't move abroad, he'll probably end up there, because it's impossible to watch him and not like what you see. Forgive me, I don't know where he's from. Is he going to be playing at the World Cup this year?
Slovakia. No, they were in Scotland's group. So Slovakia were actually the team who they finished second, but because the points total was so low, which happens when you lose to Scotland, they didn't get to the World Cup. So
it'll be fresh and he'll be loving it.
Is he going to be there? Because he's been so good. You would imagine that every club in Europe has noticed how good he has been, and what Chelsea.
I think now with Champions League, that's kind of changed a lot, because obviously the future of Icardi was up in the air. Obviously Skriniar as well, but just for money issues, because the Inter need to do FFP properly as well. But I think with the Champions League money, I think you'll get Icardi staying for at least another year. I think Skriniar will stay as well. He was loving it. I don't know if you've seen the video we put up on Twitter of him arriving back in the train station, meeting the group of fans. He was just like jumping about like a crazy man. He was loving it. So I think that unless Inter need to sell him, which I don't think they do now, they won't be going anywhere. Keep him and De Vrij, I think it'd be a very good partnership. And if they keep Jean Miranda as well, that could go into a nice back three, which Spalletti likes as well, which can kind of change things up a bit next season. So instead of just playing this, basically he played the same formation every single game this season, Spalletti, so it gives them a bit more options as well. Anybody got anything else to say for Inter?
As you were saying that, you could probably throw fullbacks into the mix of where Inter need to strengthen, because at times this year they had D'Ambrosio. Who else? Cancelo definitely needs to stay.
You wonder with Cancelo, if because Kondogbia seemed to do so well at Valencia, you wonder if they can just work out a kind of a swap deal. And I know that FFP comes into it, and Valencia kind of are looking for probably money up front, but you wonder, just you want him and we want him, can we not just do a deal? And I know football's not that simple, but to me it should be.
I wouldn't be surprised if something along those lines didn't happen, though.
Like Yuto Nagatomo will come back and everything. life will be in balance again.
Andrea Ranocchia is going to be in the Champions League next year, so get Yuto in as well.
Maybe I've got to wait. Somebody's asked me a question. I'm looking at the questions there. Is Dov from Glasgow? Dov is not from Glasgow. Dov is from Edinburgh. Paddy's from Glasgow though. He's got a wee Glasgow twang. Haven't you, Padraig?
Yes.
Aye. We've got another question here from Rizan Upara, and he says Inter need Balotelli. Says they're lacking homegrown players for the Champions League, and he says replace Candreva with Balotelli.
Well,
I'll tell you how, hold on, I'm going to tell you how this is just not going to work, because Inter's official line on their TV channel, right, is that Balotelli doesn't exist. So when they're doing like kind of on this day or anything like that, Balotelli doesn't exist. So he's like not mentioned in any kind of historical reports or reviews or anything like that. Doesn't exist.
Is that because he went to Milan?
Yeah. I think that's one of the reasons. Yeah. He's I think he's not allowed in there. There's a couple of other ones I can't remember that like Inter's like official line is we don't mention them.
What?
So I can't imagine Balotelli is going to be winging it back to Inter anytime soon. Balotelli come back to Rome, Napoli.
I'd love him at Napoli. That'd be great.
Lazio, get him at Lazio. That would be good.
Oh, Dov.
Why? That'd be fun.
No, it wouldn't.
Him and Ciro Immobile tearing it up.
Immobile, fine. Balotelli, it wouldn't work for him there.
How do you know? It doesn't work. To be fair, it doesn't work for him anywhere really. Like everywhere he's been, it's always
just
like,
keep him where he is. He's doing well.
Yeah, that's my opinion on it. Like, don't ruin it. He's doing well. Keep him there. Have him bang some goals in for Italy under Bobby Manchio, and everyone will be happy.
Christ, right? Anybody got anything left on Inter?
Yeah, just the last thing I want to know is just what happened to Candreva, because I love him.
He didn't score this season.
Exactly, and every time I think of Candreva, I just think of scoring screamers on the angle from the edge of the box, and it's probably based on like one goal he scored for Lazio against Milan a few years ago. But I think the Milan derby was 2017 now is the last time he scored a goal. That's what's happened to him.
Well, he was trying his best. I think everything in the last like 4 or 5 games, anytime got anywhere near the goal, he was just having a shot.
I think the last month of the season, he was aware that he hadn't scored, and yeah, you could see it all right.
It did get really funny, didn't it? Opta released their team of the season, though, and then they did an Italian team of the season, and Antonio Candreva got into it.
That's because of like statistics and things like that. Like it'll have like the best passing percentage or the best dribbling percentage
of 0. That's
yeah, exactly. The only one that matters.
Yeah.
Right, moving on. Like we'll talk about Lazio, because obviously their season is now defined by that game, or not even that game, that 10-minute period at the end of the match against Inter. I think that's unfair, because I think Lazio have been fantastic the entire campaign, and they're probably the only team apart from Juve and Napoli that haven't really had a blip where they've been bad for a long period of games. They've had like the odd game here and there, but it's never been like they're like Inter going like rubbish for 2 months, or Milan doing the same. It's like Lazio have kind of been consistently good all year, and then they screwed it up at the end. Obviously, Ciro Immobile, top scorer, along with Mauro Icardi, got more assists than Icardi. I think he was involved in 38 goals altogether to Icardi's 30. So, Paddy, Lazio were brilliant, apart from that wee bit at the end.
Yeah, no, love them, Dov. If there was probably one Serie A team that I was going to tune in and watch and make a point of watching every week, just based solely on how entertaining they are, then it'd be Lazio. The football they played was fantastic. They just always on the front foot, always pressing, exciting, players making angles. They're just a joy to watch it. Maybe it cost them actually in the Europa League, which really they were good enough to get to the final of that, I felt. They just kind of imploded a bit in Salzburg. That was kind of the only, I think, apart from the last game of the season, but that was just, as you said, 10 minutes of madness. It's kind of the same in Austria. It was 45 minutes of madness. was just two little blips, like small 10, 20-minute spells in two massive games that I really wouldn't want to see take the shine off their season, because I've just loved watching them every week. The only team that had 3 players that reached double figures. They were the top scoring team in the league. Just it shows you Inzaghi's commitment just to good football and entertaining football. But also, it wasn't like, as much as I love him, Zenit Zeman, who he does deliver that excellent football, that attacking football, but probably doesn't always get the results. Inzaghi was managing to combine that, as you said, with not really having a blip throughout the season. There was no real massively inconsistent spells from them. He was getting winning football and doing it in style, which can you really ask any more than that? That's what I watch football for. You wanted to be entertained, and they certainly did that all season long.
Are you not entertained, Padraig? Are you not entertained? Conor, were you entertained?
Yeah, it was hard not to be, as Padraig has said. For me, it was Napoli, who I tuned in to watch every week. And then after that, if Lazio are on, I'd definitely watch them because they were great. And it's kind of sad that they're probably not going to be the same team next year, because you would imagine they will be absolutely stripped to the bones. But Sergej Milinkovic-Savic has been someone who, when he's been on it, he had a couple of months towards the end of the season, but when he's on his game, there are few midfielders in Europe that are more enjoyable to watch. We compared him to Paul Pogba at times this season, and just that he's so physically present and powerful, and then he's got this perfectly slight touch and these quick feet. And Milinkovic-Savic is worth tuning in to watch alone, never mind when you've got everything going on around him, from Immobile banging them in up front to Felipe Anderson and the rest. But now Lazio have been enjoyable this year.
Yeah, and even then, he can still get better as well, which is the scary thing. Like, he's been so good this season, you think he can still get better, he can still improve.
Yes, I'm kind of worried for him to move this summer, because he might just stall. I'd love him to spend another season with Lazio and see what he can do before moving somewhere else, but it's unlikely.
Well, Latito wants his 100 million, so...
You probably think, if with Milinkovic-Savic is concerned, he probably thinks he should be playing now. He's reached the stage probably playing Champions League football, and 10 more minutes, if they'd have held on, maybe that would have been enough to keep him. But you just wonder if he really makes a play to get away this summer. But as Dov said, I think Latito has made it pretty clear that it's going to take 100 million to sign him, and that's a big gamble as well for a team to take, I suppose. So hopefully they keep hold of him, as you said, because like so many in the team, he's just so exciting to watch.
Well, let's keep on the Lazio loving, because let's talk about big Ciro Immobile smashing goals in the left, right, and centre. We screwed up a little bit when we did our awards, because he scored an amazing kind of like scorpion back heel kick that we forgot to put in the goal this season, which was really good, which some Lazio fans nicely pointed out. But he basically, anytime he got the ball, it was a goal. That's pretty much what happened with him. But I think probably the shining star, if you're saying it in an attacking sense, was Luis Alberto. Who's seen that coming? Nobody.
No. I think I said it to you. I think me and you were talking during the season at one stage that it was kind of two ex-Liverpool players, him and Lucas Leiva, who maybe nobody was quite too sure about both of them when they arrived. But Lucas Leiva's been outstanding as well. And Luis Alberto he kind of fitted in where it's almost that kind of role that I know we touched on a few minutes ago that Candreva had there, where just he's so direct, just wants to go at goal, and whether it's linking up, which he had a great kind of rapport with Immobile, or he's going for a goal himself. He was one that like you said, he wouldn't have been one before the season started that many would have tipped. You'd had Milinkovic-Savic. People expected a big season from him. I think Immobile, he was always going to be the lone target man, and Felipe Anderson, who, he can be inconsistent, but you're always supposed kind of waiting for him to kick on at the next level. And then Luis Alberto, I think, apart from Immobile, he's been the star man, I think, of the team, taking out Immobile's goals.
I've got a couple of questions. Aaron Holland's back with us. He said, Conor, do you think if Keita Balde stayed there, it would have made a difference for Lazio? And And Padraig, this is for you. So after Conor, would you have Immobile this season or Immobile when he had his great season at Torino?
On Balde, I'm not sure. I think getting rid of him was probably good when it happened. At the time, I thought they might take a step back, but Balde is, I don't know, he's quite hit and miss, wasn't he? Of all his time at Lazio, he could be sensational one week and then absent the next. And this Lazio team are very much that. They're a team, and it just worked so perfectly this year that I don't think having Keita Balde around would have made things all that much better. He might have just kind of got in the way of what everyone else was trying to do. I'm sure people will disagree with me on that, but Balde is a player that has frustrated me in all his years in Serie A. But Padraig, I'll let you take over with the Immobile question.
Yeah, see, the biased part of me would say I'd prefer Immobile when he was at Torino, but I think if you look at it statistically, I think, as Dov said, he touched on it, that he'd been involved in 38 goals. I think since Serie A moved to a 20-team format, literally no player has ever been involved in that many goals. So by statistical logic alone, I think you would have to say that Immobile is better now than he was then, and it will always haunt me forever, Dov. I think I was talking to you on the eve of the season that I saw that Ciro Immobile was a cheeky 25-1 with bookmakers to be Capocannonieri, and I didn't make it to the bookmakers in time. The season began, all that, and the last 2 weeks of the season, I was just, please let Icardi outscore him. Please let Icardi outscore, just so I don't regret it forever. But no, now I'll regret it forever. So for that reason, actually, that he took the money out of my pocket, I'm going to say Torino Immobile, even though he's probably a better player now than he was then.
There you go, everybody. There you go. And then just one point I quickly will touch on before we move on from Lazio. Simone Inzaghi, for me, best coach this season. I think he's been amazing, or he's done amazing. Apart from those, like you say, 2 blips, I think he's, for what they are in terms of squad depth and the kind of changes that were made, like losing their captain in the summer, I think he is brilliant. So, and he'll probably, the good thing is he'll stay there next season as well because he's nowhere to go, which is good for them. So yeah, Simone Inzaghi, what a coach! What a coach!
Can we just bring it down? As great as Lazio have been, they did sign Nani, and he has been an absolute joke. I just wanted to get a little dig on Nani in there before we move on, because he's been shite.
It was quite funny when Lazio were chasing the game against Inter and they brought on Nani expecting him to do something, and you're just like, yeah, you've screwed up, Simone. You were doing good until then, but there you go. Right, now this is going to be a fun bit. Let's talk about AC Milan.
That was a tease.
I knew that was going to be fun.
You got me.
I'll get you get to talk about your little team eventually, but we're going to talk about AC Milan first, because it's been a tough season in the red and black half of the San Siro. Everybody thought they were going to win the title. That didn't happen. Paddy, where did it all go wrong?
You'd probably be easy to lay the blame at Montella's door, but to be honest, I know you can kind of, it's easier to say it now, but I think a lot of people were saying it back then, those that didn't get too carried away by last summer's summer business, for the amount of money that they spent, and you looked at the players that were coming in, I think they would have wanted a better quality of player than a lot of the ones that they signed. Like Bonucci, fantastic signing. I think Çalhanoğlu is he's a wizard. Like he can literally change the game even with his set pieces alone. Never mind with the ball at his feet. But the money that was spent on some others like Andre Silva and Kalinic, and I think Kessie's been good as well. But there was a lot of money spent on a lot of players that they haven't worked out, and Milan are going to be punished for spending that money going forward. So I think it started, I think, before the season even started. I don't think they signed players. I wasn't looking at Milan coming into the season going that the calibre of players they've signed are enough to get Milan where they feel they should be, and that is challenging for the Scudetto. And I think that is where they should be. they shouldn't be a team that are scraping to get into the Champions League and ultimately failing to get into the Champions League, because this is a massive club. It's only 10 years ago that they were winning Champions Leagues, and given their history, that is where they should be. But the caliber of player that they signed, I never felt was enough to get them into that kind of Scudetto contention. And they've said that this summer is going to be a summer where it's only kind of filling a few gaps and a few bits of quality here and there. Maybe 2 or 3 players is going to be the limit on what they bring in this summer. So they really have to choose wisely, I think, with those 2 or 3 players, because they really cannot have another season where they don't finish in the top 4, especially all the Champions League money that is there just by finishing in the top 4. But there is some quality teams that we've already discussed that are ahead of them in the race for those 4 positions. So they're in a bit of a sticky spot, I think, going forward. And that's without even touching on Gattuso, who may or may not be the man for the job.
I'll hold both my hands up. I got carried away last summer when Milan spent all the money, because I thought they were spending it quite well, and the money that they had spent up until the point that we will come to is that it's going to be enough for them to compete to get into the Champions League. And then when they went and got Bonucci and Lucas Biglia, which is funny to say now looking back, I thought they were the moves that elevated them. And I thought they were going to be the moves that put them into the conversation. I didn't see Juventus being as good as they were. I didn't see Napoli being quite this good. And I thought that the eventual winners would finish on something like 80 points. And I thought after Milan summer that they could be in that conversation. And I was so wrong. They spent, €250 million to get 1 point more this season than they got last, which...
That's an expensive point to win.
It's funny. I've taken a lot of stick on Twitter this season from Milan fans for laughing at their situation. But in 5 years, Milan fans will find this funny as well, because the mismanagement that's gone on there and the spending, it is really funny that they've only got 1 point more than they did last year.
The one thing I'd say though, Dov, I don't know how you feel on this one, is that they are obviously committing to developing youth, and you saw Catrone and stuff like that, get players like that got more of a chance, and you've seen Romagnoli. I suppose you can't expect him to be making big strides now, but players like that have kind of improved. I don't know if you think maybe they kind of deserve a bit of leeway, maybe, even though they should be challenging for the Champions League. That I think you do see the team that goes onto the park every week. It is a reasonably young team compared to the rest of Serie A.
Well, they actually was the youngest team compared to the rest of Serie A. Statistically, they fielded the youngest kind of group of players out of all the teams. I think it's 25 years and 200 odd days. So yeah, it's all good promoting youth, but I think this season's an abject failure for them. Nothing, you can't say anything else. They needed to get into the Champions League. That is literally as simple as that. And they didn't do it. And the thing is as well, they were never even close to doing it. That's probably the thing that makes it more of a failure, is that I think maybe after the 4 or 5 games at the start of the season, after that, they just tailed off and were never in the Champions League race at all. I think there was maybe a point after Gattuso came in where it was we're almost there. But eventually he got his contract and then they kind of tailed off again. So I think you can't take too many positives. I think Catrone is a positive. I think Romagnoli is a positive. Gattuso, I think, is a positive, surprisingly. But I mean, apart from that, you're kind of struggling, I think.
I think Suso maybe, but then
Suso's rubbish. I'm sorry, Suso's rubbish. Suso does one thing: he gets the ball on the right. Sorry, cuts in on his left and does his wee curly shot. That's all he does. He's not fast enough. He can't take on players enough or get past them properly. He is far too lightweight. He can't last 90 minutes the way that Gattuso wants him to. I think if you look at Çalhanoğlu, who's a similar type of player, the way that he's come on under Gattuso and the way that Suso hasn't tells me a lot. And I think if Milan, I know that if Milan get a decent offer for Suso, he'll be gone.
Well, I think his release clause is 40 million in his contract anyway. So if someone wants to meet that and you wouldn't be surprised. What's 40 million in the market now? Then Milan won't even have a say in, and he'll be gone. So
yeah, exactly. And I think that obviously, well, now after we've seen what's happened in terms of Milan's European woes and not meeting the FFP regulations, they'll need to sell somebody. The big one is Donnarumma. He's gone. Donnarumma's finished.
Well, I suppose you kind of have to discuss him as well, don't you? If you're going to discuss Milan season, like what happened to him?
He's so overrated and overhyped. It's unbelievable. There you go. I've said it.
Right. He is because his name is Gianluigi and he's an Italian goalkeeper starting off.
His name doesn't really have much to do with it.
I'm not talking about his name. I'm talking about how he plays.
No, but there is the fact that he's the next Gigi Buffon as he's been hyped, but he's also not been given the easiest task by Milan fans who have just completely turned on him. And it's easy to forget because when you look at him, you think he's in his 30s, but he's a kid. He was, 18 when the season began? And he was having money thrown at him. And I know he needs to take some responsibility, but...
He gets paid €6.5 million a year, Connor. Like, he's not a child. He gets paid a lot of money.
But he's not a man either. Like, Mino Raiola is the man behind him who is the reason he's getting €6.5 million a year. And I would have liked to have seen Donnarumma completely cut his ties with Raiola during the season.
He's not going to do that. Raiola, as much as people don't like him as an agent, is fantastic.
Oh, he does the job.
You don't want another agent because he's the best at it.
You don't want another agent if you want to move clubs, and it's clear that Donnarumma wants to move clubs. If he wanted to stay at Milan forever, he wouldn't have Raiola as his agent.
I think he would stay at Milan forever if Milan were capable of actually challenging for the Scudettos or being in the Champions League. But the fact that they're kind of floundering in like 6th and 7th place, like making sure of a Europa League spot in the last couple of games of the season, he obviously wants to be in the top echelon of European football. And at Milan, he's not going to get that. Particularly not now or in the recent future, I don't think. So that's why.
He does have to earn that as well, though, doesn't he? Which goes back to what you're saying, that he's overrated.
I think you've been banging that drum for a while, and I
don't understand.
Disagree with you a lot about it. Like I've always been kind of a fan, but like this season it hasn't been his best. Like you're expecting at his age to kind of keep improving and keep kicking on, and yeah, it's been disappointing.
For me, getting to the point where in every game you can see a mistake coming from him, or you see that there's a mistake in him, and not just like, oh yeah, he made a bad pass, like a Coppa Italia style mistake, but then he did like 10 million in the space of like 2 seconds. But every game I've watched, I think pretty much every single Milan game this season, and it takes far too long with distribution. He doesn't know what he's going to do with it. Like the Coppa Italia is an example where Mandzukic got about a couple of inches away from nicking the ball off him about 5 times. If you're a goalkeeper, you can't do that, because then it means the defense doesn't have confidence in you. You then doubt yourself, and goalkeepers are such they're mentally fragile. I think that if there's too many games and they make too many mistakes, that can then lead to just them collapsing in terms of their own confidence in themselves. And I think he right now is kind of in a tricky position where if he has another season like he's had just now, then that potential, which he does have, because instinctively he's amazing. When somebody fires like a ball at him, I can't, who was it? Was it Mertens or Milik in the Napoli game? He just made this amazing save out of nothing. You're like, how on earth can you do that? He's brilliant at doing stuff like that. But where it's like coming for a cross or a long shot that he's got time to steady himself, he makes mistakes.
I think that stuff will come, though. The goalkeepers generally don't hit their peak until quite late in their careers, and although he's been around for 3 years now, and I do think Donnarumma can still hit the heights that he was expected to, but maybe people thought he was going to be the best goalkeeper of all time by the time he's 21.
Yeah, exactly. People thought he was going to be Buffon when Buffon was his best.
Yeah, people just need to push the clock back a little bit, because at the moment I wouldn't even have him as number 1 for Italy, to be honest.
Neither would I. It shouldn't be anywhere near that as far as I'm concerned.
Perrine is brilliant.
Yeah,
fantastic goalkeeper.
Let's see what people are saying in the comments section. We've got some stuff. Aaron Holland, roller coasters have less turns than that Milan season. That was good. What else? Gattuso wearing the same blazer.
Insert obligatory Barini comment. I think he's been all right this year, you know.
Barini's
especially that I think it comes back to that though. Like if you want to be challenging for a Scudetto and getting into the top 4, you don't sign Barini.
But the thing is, you signed Barini as a striker, and he's played at right back, left back, centre midfield, like defensive midfield. He's played everywhere apart from striker.
He's done very well at right back, and the fact that it says a lot about Milan's policy last summer that he was brought in. But to give him some credit, he hasn't looked out of place in that team, which probably says more about them than him. But I'm not going to bash him.
Oh, your boy Conte, Connor. He'll come good.
Conte. Well, maybe. It depends how long he can stay fit for. I think that's a big loss as well. I think he would have been good for them this season. He's a good wee player, but Milan, they're so frustrated, man. It's like you're spending that amount of money. You need to get in the Champions League or challenge for it, but they don't do it. And now we don't know what's going to happen with them. Donnarumma's probably going to go. Did we even talk about Kalinic? Christ almighty.
Is there any point?
I think Kalinic was part of the preamble before.
The Kalinic, Andre Silva. I mean, if you're going through kind of like worst signings of the season, you just basically look at Milan's ins and then maybe take Bonucci away and then just put the rest there as like worst signings and let people.
Yeah, like even Ricardo Rodriguez, I was expecting more out of him. Given he's been pretty, like, by all accounts, a really solid player in the Bundesliga and Swiss international, and all I really know about him is that he takes a decent penalty, but I'm not sure how good he is defensively.
I don't know why he's pretending to be a defender, because he can't defend, but he's quite good going forward. So just rebrand himself as a left winger and he'd be all right.
Yeah, well, Gattuso will get out of him with his grinta. Do we like Gattuso? Gattuso good? Is everybody happy with Gattuso?
Give him another year. And we'll see.
I love Gattuso. I think he's great.
I don't know.
I'm not really too fussed about his tactics. I just like him because when he's doing press conferences and stuff like that, he just does not give any shits about anything. He just does whatever he wants. He's like, no.
Well, he managed to turn it. It was at the pre-Coppa Italia final press conference. He managed to shoehorn in an anecdote about eating snails before Champions League semi-finals. So, yeah, you're guaranteed entertainment.
Like there was one, I remember being at one press, I think it was post-match, and all like it maybe lasted like 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes maximum. And everybody had asked them questions. And then somebody was about to ask him, and the press officer was like, no, it's finished, time's up. And then Gattuso turned to him and went, no, he's asked the question, and I'm going to answer it. So you just sit. So basically said, you just sit down and listen to the question, and they just answered them and like had a wee conversation. And he's just like, most other coaches would just be like, right, fine, see you later. But he's just like, no, I'm here and I'm gonna. He's the boss. He's brilliant. I love him.
I do really want him to do well. That is something I didn't know, but that's quite nice. And the fact that he is a bit mental, and you do love a bit of that.
He's mad. And the last one, his last press conference against the game against Fiorentina, but the one before the game, shook every journalist's hand before the press conference, welcomed them all into the press room. No other coach has done that.
Lovely.
He's a nice guy. I like
Lorenzo Dana does it.
Listen, mate, we'll get to him. All right, we're going to talk about nice things. Connor, Atalanta. There you go.
Here we go.
Guys, you two can leave if you want.
No, you've already done 15 minutes of this on Sunday, and I had to stop you then.
Yes.
What's that? Hashtag Atalanta Life.
Atalanta Life. Hashtag go Atalanta Go.
Go Atalanta Go. Go Atalanta Go.
Go Atalanta Go is my favourite. If you use those hashtags, they retweet you though. So.
Oh yeah, well we've seen that.
He just lives for his retweets.
Look, people are celebrating in the comments. Aaron Holland, hey, it's time. He's delighted we're talking about Atalanta. He called for it from the first minute of this.
Nobody wanted that. Nobody wants this. Nobody wants this, but we have to do it because they got into Europe
again. Again, though.
Again.
They got into Europe again after getting out of the group stage this season, which was more than they ever could have asked for. Can you guys talk about them maybe? Because I've kind of said my piece on Sunday, so I'm sure you guys, when
we'll
you
rip into them, Dom. We'll find a way.
Gasperini needs sacked. Get rid of him. What a disappointment. He only finished seventh with that Milan team, and he couldn't even beat them.
But
seriously, Atalanta are amazing. What they're doing is amazing. They've got everybody knows they've got the best youth sector in the country. Gasperini is a really, really good coach. I remember first started watching him properly when he was at Genoa, and he took them to the Europa League almost in the Champions League, and that was like about 10 years ago. He's got his system. He's 3-4-3 essentially. Perfect. Loves it. Believes in it. He knows exactly what each player should do and make sure they know what they should do. And I think the players at Atalanta have really bought into it as well. Whereas I think there were times at Genoa, particularly Inter, when he was there,
he got a rough deal at that, didn't he?
The players new system, they didn't buy into it, so it didn't work. But I think Atalanta, they've really kind of like, this is good. This is quite nice to watch. This works. #Atalanta life. So yeah, no, it's good. And the thing is as well, the fans love it. And I know one of the reasons that you picked Atalanta as your team, Conor, after choosing Genoa, Roma, Milan, and Sassuolo, all the teams before you got to Atalanta, is because of the supporters, because they're all mad bastards.
That's exactly what it was. We went to the Atalanta-Lazio game, and it was piss and rain in Bergamo. You could barely see 10 yards in front of you. The stadium looked like an absolute shithole. But
it was. It was.
But I remember us having a coffee or something before the game at 10 o'clock in the morning, looking across at it, and I was thinking, what have I got myself in for? And then we went in, and me and Paddy were loving it. Padraig will pretend that he wasn't, but me and him were planning, if they score again, we'll run back and start banging on the fence. And sure enough, the big man Dennis went through. Aaron Holland wants to know, is there a team that defies the odds more than Atalanta? And
I answered that for him, so it's fine.
Apologies.
No, like, in all seriousness, how are Atalanta able to do this, Conor? How can they get into Europe against all the odds, have a really good European campaign where they should have beat Dortmund, they probably would have beat Salzburg, and theoretically they could even have got to the final, given how the draw panned out and how they performed in the competition. And then to go and do it again. It's madness.
Gasperini is the key, isn't he?
Well, I know the fans were loving it. They had their big tifo of him. So.
Yeah, long life to Gasperini, and he was loving that as well. I think
Gasperini life, a new hashtag.
Oh, hashtag! Don't give them ideas.
I'm going to tweet them that later and see how that goes. No, I think he is, because, as I've said to absolute death this season, players have come and gone, and Gasperini just keeps delivering. Whether it's in defence with Mazziello, Palomino, Toloi, Caldara, whoever plays, they all know their jobs, and it's really strange that they seem to have this rotating attacking defender where Mazziello will go forward, the other two will stay back, then Toloi will take his turn, and the other two will stay back. And a midfield two of Martin Darun and Remo Freuler. This time,
Remo, what a player he is!
He is. I love him. I really love him.
I know you do.
I wrote about it in October, and you and Padraig ridiculed me on a podcast about it, but I stand by it. If he's there next season, I'll be delighted. But given they're in Europe again, I don't see why he wouldn't. It's going to be interesting to see what happens this summer, because last summer they brought in Josip Ilicic, and Darun came back, and that was about it.
Conor, last summer, did they not keep hold of Alejandro Gomez? Who you, I believe.
Yes, people, turn your headphones up.
Yeah, because last summer, Mr. Conor Clancy sent out a tweet in which he said that if Alejandro Gomez is still at Atalanta at the start of the season, what was it you said you'd get, Conor? A tattoo? Was it I love Papu? Or
it was Papu and a love heart beside it.
Yeah, Papu and a love heart.
So can you show us this tattoo?
Yeah, show us the tattoo, please. Yeah.
Are we doing this now? I thought we were going to do like a Twitter thing, because I have it.
Oh, you mean you haven't done it?
I have got it. I showed you photos of it.
Right, no, do it now.
Really?
Well, it depends where it is. If it's on your bum,
It's on my leg.
That's a bet, Connor. That's a bet.
Yeah,
I've shown you photos of this already.
This nice Jurassic Park top, Dov. Oh, there it is.
See it?
I can see a big hairy leg. Oh my god!
A promise is a promise, guys.
What will you do if he stays this summer? Will you get one on the other leg?
I'll get it again.
Yeah.
He signed
So eventually, like when he's been there for like 50 years, you're just going to be like, your leg's just going to be Papu and Love Hearts.
President Papu.
The whole way down my leg, yeah, and I'll get it back to front and everything. But yeah, like a bet's a bet.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thank God me and you, Dov, aren't so silly, are we?
Exactly. We're the sensible ones in this.
Yeah.
We've got the question, will Petagna be the starting striker? What happened to Petagna? Because he seemed to not be very good this season.
Well, there are rumors
that I told you.
Yeah. I didn't know if I wasn't allowed to say them on the podcast. So.
Never reveal your sources, Connor.
Fire away. Atalanta don't like us anyway, so it's fine.
Fair enough. But yeah, apparently he just got a bit carried away with his success over the last year, and he moved into the Bosco Verticale in Milan, and he hangs out with really old, like 50, 60-year-old men, which is quite strange.
What are you suggesting?
It's really weird. If you follow on Instagram, you see him hanging out with a 60-year-old all the time. It's quite odd.
That might be his dad.
No, I don't think it is. It's a really weird little thing. And him and Josip Ilicic are good friends. Ilicic obviously being a bit of a high roller, and Petagna's success has just gone to his head a bit. And I think Gasparini isn't too fond of it. So he's been playing this season with Brian Cristante almost as a false nine.
Football player in Serie A, I don't think I'd be hanging about with a 50, 60-year-old man.
No, it's really weird.
I think there's plenty of other things a hot young Serie A stud like Andrea.
Well, he's got his girlfriend.
He's
got his beautiful girlfriend as well, who lives in Bosco Verticale with him.
That's sexist, Clancy.
What? To say he has a beautiful girlfriend?
He's a woman in her own right. He's a person. He's not his girlfriend. He's her boyfriend.
Well, I don't know her name. What do you want me to do?
Oh, you don't even know her name. Honestly, that's terrible.
Kind of Atalanta fan, are you?
I know her Instagram handle, if that's any help.
That's sexist as well. Ilicic, there's one. Ilicic.
Oh, he's so good.
11 goals, 8 assists. It's not bad. I bet it's his best ever record in Serie A.
He's amazing. He kind of has the freedom to just kind of arse around and do what he wants there as well. I know at Fiorentina there was probably more of an expectation on him to do the defensive work, which to be fair, he does do when it's really necessary. But him and Gomez, for the most part, will kind of take it in turns. One of them stays up, the other drops back. And I think a club of Atalanta's profile just suits Ilicic a lot more. There's not as much expectation on him. There's not as much pressure, and he's given free rein. When he has the ball, if he takes a shot and misses, Petagna's not going to give out to him. Do you know what I mean? Because if he passed it to Petagna, he'd probably just miss anyway. But if there's a better striker there, he's probably feeling more obliged to play towards the team. But he's got that kind of creative license with Atalanta, and it suits him down to the ground. I was only talking about Ilicic today, and if he was at his best every single week and played to the level that he can, he would be nowhere near Atalanta or something like that. He'd be at one of the top clubs in Europe. But
that's his problem.
Exactly. But we can take that at Atalanta. He doesn't need to be at his best every week because they're a small provincial club who are overachieving by finishing 6th and 7th. So it works.
So what do they do now then? That's the thing. Where do they go from here? Back to EU Atalanta. Obviously, Caldara's off. Spinazzola's off. Papo Gomez maybe off. Who knows?
Nah, he signed his contract. He's there.
For the sake of your left leg, he better stay.
It's my right leg, and laser removal is always an option.
So what happens then next season? Do you think there'll be a bit more investment then? Because that's going to be 2 years a row in the Europa League. So that's not a lot of money, but it's a decent amount. And do you think it'll be exactly the same, just all in on the EU train?
I think they've got the ability to do well in Europe again, as we saw this year. They do have to actually qualify next time around, which is obviously going to be annoying.
Yeah, but they'll get some team from Lithuania or something.
Or Ireland, maybe they could play Cork. which would be fun.
Cork are in the Champions League.
They won't be, though, will they? They'll drop down.
They might not.
Right, we're not turning this into the Ireland podcast, so just keep going.
But no, it's kind of becoming the norm now, nearly, isn't it? If they do it again,
you've been there for a season. You've been there for one season. It's not
unbelievable.
They've qualified twice in a row, and if they do it again next year, and there's no reason why they can't, because there's that top 6, which probably will stay the same, and then the cup place will probably drop down again because it will probably be won by Juventus again. So there's no reason why Atalanta can't aim to finish 7th or even break into that top 6 if Lazio can fall apart or something like that.
The Juve of 7th place.
Maybe. There's a lot of merit in that, getting into Europe every year. I think
Aaron Holland said he wouldn't mind Brozovic at Atalanta, which reminds me, Brozovic, since Spalletti dropped him to deeper in midfield, is brilliant at Inter. So have that. No, in terms of what I'm trying to get at, Connor, is in terms of kind of Atalanta, obviously they need to sell players. Like if Juve come in and say, we want him, basically tough. He's going. Like, are you going to see that's just going to be the trend? And can Atalanta kind of sustain the conveyor belt of good youngsters coming through? Or do you think there's going to be a point maybe in a season or so where the big teams in the league have just stripped them of anybody half decent? And do you think it then has a bad effect for them doing so well that Milan and Juve and Inter are just like, we'll keep an eye on Atalanta. They get in Europe every time. We'll have him, and we'll have him.
The 2 Milan clubs are kind of doing that already. Inter are being linked with Ilicic, Barrow and Bastoni. Milan obviously took Kessie and Conte last year, Bonaventura before that. But the conveyor belt's been going for about 25 years now, so I don't see why it's going to stop. And if they keep getting into Europe, albeit just the Europa League, they can attract more players than they would have been able to in recent years. So they're not going to be as reliant on the youth academy. The likes of Josip Ilicic wouldn't have signed for Atalanta if they weren't in Europe. So I do think things like that will probably become more frequent if they can stay in Europe. And Cristante is another who will probably leave, and they can probably afford to replace him with someone, although not as good. I know Alberto Brignola is being linked. A couple of players like that. Even Mario Balotelli was linked by somebody who's
that would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. But, no, I don't know. I'm not too pessimistic, to be honest. I think there's every chance that Atalanta could finish 7th again next year, and we could be sitting here having the same conversation after Gasperini signs another contract and Papa Gomez also signs another contract.
There you go. Right, so that's Atalanta done.
There we go. Right. I'm gonna shoot off now, guys. This is solid.
All aboard the
he's waiting for that for like an hour. He's like, right, get to Atalanta. We need to get to Atalanta. This is going to be quick, but I want to say quick. But the bottom of Serie A is absolute garbage. There you go. There's a season review. Benevento, Verona, Crotone, Spal, Cagliari, Bologna, Udinese, Chievo, Proletena, Extend, Genoa, Sassuolo. Absolute rubbish.
Get rid of them.
Yeah. We did. We got rid of 3 of them.
That's not enough. You got rid of one of the good ones. Benevento shouldn't have gone.
No, they should. How many games? 13 games they went without winning or getting a point. Although probably the best moment of the season was Brignoli's goal against Milan. That was amazing. I'll give them that. And then they probably signed they made the best signing in January with Diabate, who I think he had 8 shots a goal and scored 50 goals. It was brilliant. So he was good. But the rest of Verona, rubbish. Crotone, rubbish. Spal, rubbish. They're all just Udinese, rubbish. Chievo in a transition period, so that we can let them off with that.
Well, but Udinese, it says it all about how bad Serie A is that a team lost 11 games in a row and they still weren't really in trouble of getting relegated. 11 games in a row, and they survived fairly comfortably. That shows how poor some of the teams below them were this season.
Badger Demon says that Benevento should get 10 points for Brignoli's goal. Then Udinese would be off, so they were like that. There was another one as well. I think it was just further up. And it was H. Huss who said, do you think Serie A will ever reach the heights of the Premier League? Obviously, kind of back in the day, when Serie A was the best, and it was the best of all of them. And I think that kind of goes back to the point where we were saying in terms of marketing, it's just so poorly marketed abroad. And they've got rubbish teams at the bottom, just absolute garbage teams, too many of them.
That said, I don't think the Premier League probably has. I think that's league's pretty poor in the bottom half as well. So I don't think that's just like a Serie A problem.
They've shite teams in their top half as well. It's like there's 6 good teams.
Oh, he's taking shots now, dog.
Everyone else is terrible.
So Italy have got one good team and everybody. No, but see, but I think at the start of the season, I don't know if it was a podcast with you guys or it might have been with Adam Digby, but I kind of floated the idea of reducing it to 18 teams because there are you've got obviously got that kind of block of garbage that I mentioned, and then you've got like the Sampdoria, the Torino, to an extent Atalanta, Sassuolo, Fiorentina that don't really do anything. They're not going to challenge for a Scudetto. And they're not going to get relegated. And Atalanta are kind of breaking the mold a wee bit with a wee European adventure. But like Genoa, what's the point in Genoa?
But there is no point in Genoa. You even had like Sassuolo did it under Di Francesco, and they had their little adventure in Europe, and Torino had. And
then they went back to being crap.
Yeah, exactly. And then they've kind of both teams have just kind of regressed, and there's been maybe a few bad coaching decisions, and it's different. You can't just tar them all them with the same brush. There's issues that Torino had that Sassuolo didn't have, and vice versa. But you're right, like both of them have just kind of regressed and not really pushed on from that position of power. And it's something like
Bologna, 15th place. Like
I forgot they were even in Serie A. To be honest,
do you know what the problem is? Their English social media account keeps telling Donadoni how to do his job. and giving them tactical advice. I think that's the problem.
I wouldn't listen to that advice.
Apparently, it must do because they're crap. And Cagliari should how do you fix that? There you go. There's Connor. How do you fix that bit at the bottom? How do we make that group of teams more competitive? So that then when they come against Napoli, Juve, Roma, Inter, it's not just like, oh, well, Juve are playing Spal. Like, that's obviously, like, just give Juve the 3 points. There's no point in even playing the game.
I don't even really know. I think it should probably be reduced to 18 teams, but I don't know if that necessarily makes the teams at the bottom any better or if it just reduces the number of them that there are.
There's less of them.
Yeah.
I think any team that's in like the bottom 5 should start with like a goal head start in every game.
That's going to make them worse.
No, it won't. If they keep a clean sheet, they'll win the game. That's 3 points. They improve, and all of a sudden.
Yeah, but they know they have to do less.
Yeah, but less is more.
You just saying things.
I know. It's just an idea. It's just throwing spitball in here. Just throwing it out there.
There you go. I like that. Less is more. Should we talk about the coaches? Connor, Paddy, can you name me the coach with the best record in Serie A this season?
Oh, here we go. Paddy, I think this is when me and you leave for a while.
Yeah, well, we'll leave you to.
I'm going to leave a couple of minutes. People in the comment section, guess the coach, the best coach in Serie A season with the best record. I'll give them a few seconds.
They don't care, Dov. No one wants this.
Yes, they do. Everyone wants to know
everybody wants to know who the best coach is.
They will.
Everybody wants to know this.
And then once they hear the answer and what follows, no one's going to be interested.
I'll tell you, as we're building up to the best coach, right? I'll tell you the worst coach. That's obviously De Zerbi at Benevento, who got 0.63 points per game. Fabio Pecchi at Verona wasn't much better. He got 0.66 points per game. So CM Fox, Pecchi is rubbish. God knows how he managed to stay in a job because everybody hates him at Verona.
He's got it.
Ready, right. So the coach with the best record in Serie A this season, 3 points per game he played, was Lorenzo Dana, Chievo coach. What a guy. The man... See if he was in charge of, well, doesn't need to be in charge of any other team. Just wait till next season. If he keeps that record going, got Scudetto #1 on the way.
It's a real Chievo thing, that, Dov, isn't it? Isn't Pelissier have like 100%
100% record for Italy? Aye, just get him for the Azzurri, scores goals.
You know what you're getting.
Fantastic. So there you go.
Actually, he was the worst coach of the season, Ventura. Never mind Serie A, just Ventura.
And you're definitely onto something there. So yeah, so there's loads of rubbish at the bottom of Serie A, and that's that. But Lorenzo Dano is the best coach, the cable boss. Right, we're going to take a little bit of a somber turn now, because obviously the season's kind of like, it's been a great season in terms of the football on the pitch and getting a title race and a Champions League battle and everything that happened last day and a relegation battle and stuff. But obviously, probably what most people remember this season for is the death of Davide Astori, which kind of shocked everybody, really, in Calcio. Like, my missus woke me up and was like, I think you need to go and look at the news. I was like, why? It's like, footballers died. I was like, oh, crap. And I know, Padraig, you were up already and you had done some stuff before.
Yeah, I think when I'd found out, I'd seen a few people tweeting that, sad news about a story, and it doesn't kind of click with you. And I think at first I was just thinking, he must have picked up some kind of injury. Maybe his career's over, something like that. You don't even
think of it.
Yeah, you don't think that at all.
So yeah, so obviously that's the thing. I don't want to kind of go into we all know it's a tragedy and the reasons why kind of it happened, and we don't like that. But I think a positive from it was the way it galvanized Fiorentina, that squad, and then they went on a 6 or 7 match winning run. You've seen all the tributes and everything was done brilliantly well by everybody and kind of involved in the club and things like that. So that was good to see. But kind of on a serious note, how are Fiorentina going to move on from this in the summer? Because this is the time, Conor, where they can kind of build and plan. And do you think, obviously now that's do you think it'll be a shadow hanging over them, or do you think it's something that like happened in the season that they can bring them together and they can get back into Europe or Champions League?
It's tough. I don't think they'll ever move on from they've retired his number 13 shirt. There are players in that squad who would have been extremely close with him. Marco Sportiello being one who's been told he's no longer wanted at Fiorentina. He's going to be going this summer. But Riccardo Saponaro is another. There's going to be players there who will never forget Davide Astori being there. But eventually, if they do bring in new players this summer, there will be players who never met him. And life does go on in the end, you know. And as tough as it's going to be, Fiorentina will keep going, and everything they do that's good now will be in the memory of Davide Astori, which I think will help them to find that extra bit of motivation. So next year they'll qualify for Europe. If they qualify for Europe, it will be for him. And it is a really tricky one. And I remember when it happened, we did the podcast the following day, I think it was, and it was tough to know what to even talk about, because that is a cloud that hangs over absolutely everything. And everything Fiorentina did since March 4th till now there was that cloud of Davide Astori hanging over it. And it did really bring the squad together, and it's going to be, you would imagine that will continue to be true coming through the summer and into next season.
Yeah, no, I think so as well. Obviously, you're right. I think it's one of those things. I'm pragmatic in the sense where I'm a firm believer in life goes on, and you shouldn't kind of dwell on things like that, and even use it as inspiration. I think that's probably where it's best used, kind of living up to the memory in that sense. So I think kind of what Fiorentina did and how they handled everything was impeccable. Like, you literally cannot say anything against what they did. Everything they did was top notch, and they should be commended for that. And I think if they can, I think in the summer it'll be good, because I think that with the way it kind of brought the president and obviously the owners, who obviously had a bit of friction with the fans, it kind of brought them closer together, which then you can see they might put some investment in, like the Badell's probably their kind of next most senior player. Looked like he's going to leave, but now probably will stay as well. So you've kind of got a lot of factors in that tragedy happening, which could ultimately help Fiorentina in a kind of weird way that you probably wouldn't want to happen, but it's kind of making the best of a bad situation, really. So yeah, but it was sad. I think even at the San Siro on Sunday, Milan had a little tribute beforehand as well. So I think that's kind of something that, because it's such a high-profile player and the captain, it's like, I think with Vieri Capretta, our colleague who's a Fiorentina fan and his family are from Florence, we're just like, of all the players, why, like, the captain? Like, it wasn't some dodgy youth player nobody'd heard of or some old guy or anything. It was the captain of the club, which I think kind of made it even worse.
And the fact that it was a guy who nobody seemed to have a bad word to say about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there you go. Well, just a little bit to remember the video story, because it was a tragic moment. Right. Okay, let's bring it back up. Bring the energy levels back, because predictions. We made predictions.
Oh, no.
Way back in August 2017, long time ago. Conor Clancy, you predicted Napoli were going to win the league.
I did. I'm glad that I did, though, because I was quite worried that I predicted.
Why, you were wrong, Conor?
I know. It could have been so much worse. I remember at the time, I put money on Napoli to win the league as well. And I remember being tempted by Milan. So I'm just glad I didn't go for Milan to win the league in my predictions. But I'm not too ashamed of that. I think a lot of people would have predicted Napoli to win the league. And
yeah, not me, not Paddy.
They got 91 points.
We picked Juventus.
Yeah.
You've no romance in you. Cynics.
We just know how this country works. So. But you also picked Gonzalo Higuain to be top scorer. That didn't quite work out. But your player to watch was Lucas Torreira, who was fantastic. Had a really good season.
Happy with that, yeah. Although in the player of the season voting on the site, you got one vote or something, which is a disgrace.
How many votes do you want?
For Torreira, I don't know. He's been brilliant.
Yeah, he has been brilliant, but that's not how votes work. Sorry.
Popularity contest, Conor.
Yeah, sorry to burst your bubble, Conor, but yeah. See when you do your voting on Friday, you go, listen, guys, can I have about 20 votes? Because I think this is what should happen. No, it's not how it works.
Yeah, I should say I didn't even vote for him, to be fair.
Oh, there you go.
Well, then what chance does the guy have?
Paddy, you had obviously Juve to win. Everybody had Milan in the Champions League places, so yeah, that kind of shows you how rubbish they were. Relegation candidates, though, Paddy, you got Benevento and Hellas, right? In the wrong order, though. Obviously, Clancy, you had Benevento. You did Cagliari, though. Although, Paddy, top scorer, who did you say?
Ciro Immobile.
There you go. Who was top scorer?
Ciro Immobile.
Well,
Kind
of. And I've got your wee blurb thing. You said this really feels like it could be the year that the Bianconeri are truly tested, and they were.
Mystic Meg.
Christ. And I had, who did I have? Juve to win. Brilliant. I got Crotone and Benevento as relegation.
Who did you have to be top scorer, Dov?
Mauro Icardi.
Oh.
He was top scorer, kind of. So we did not bad. And the thing I wanted to see was a title race. So it was fine. Not a pretend one, a proper one. I said a title race with twists and turns and pressure and highs and lows. And that's what we got. So that was fine. And Chievo winning the Coppa Italia, which didn't quite happen. There's always next season. We've got Dana now. There you go.
Who was Conor's third team to be relegated, though?
Genoa.
I believe Genoa. Why on earth did he Genoa to be relegated?
Ask him, Conor, why on earth did you?
I don't know, it's back in August, but I'm pretty sure they had a terrible end to the season before and nearly ended up getting sucked into it. So it's probably based on that. And the fact that they're a bit of a pointless club.
Or only one more Scudetto and they've got a star on there.
I just wanted to get that in there for Vito Doria, who sadly can't be with us this evening.
Yeah.
I feel like he would have wanted me to say that.
There we go. Well, that's us pretty much done everything. Is there anything we need to mention? Sampdoria had the third best home form in the league and probably the worst away form. What else? What else happened?
Sampdoria do deserve a bit of credit for what they did at home, and their league position is almost false at the end of it because they were European contenders for a while.
Oh, they were below Torino. That was the correct.
Imagine finishing below Torino. Christ almighty.
It's a shame. Fabio Quagliarella, actually. Can we give him some love?
We can.
You can.
Yeah.
What age is he? 35, and he scored his best goal scoring season in Serie A. He had the amazing news off the pitch, obviously, about everything to do with his stalker being resolved, and he's just been an absolute joy. I love Quagliarella, and it was great to see him have such a good season, and it is kind of a shame that Sampdoria couldn't do a little bit more for him.
There you go. That's a wee bit on Fabio Quagliarella. Should we do the awards or?
This is an hour 45. Will we do it as a separate one?
No, we'll let Nick do it so people can wait.
Okay.
Or no, should we do it quickly?
Yeah, fuck it.
We'll run through them quickly. So people, here are the awards. Right, player of the season is. Are you ready for this, guys?
Can we say? Are we going to say who we voted for, or are you just going to?
No, I'm just going to tell you, and then you can just say things. Player of the season, Mauro Icardi.
Really?
Yeah, really. 29% of the vote. Ciro Immobile was second, and then Alisson third. So there you go. Team of the season, Juve.
I have a problem with this one.
Why? They were the best.
Should be. Juve did nothing other than hit their
more points than anybody else.
That's exactly what's expected of them. Whereas there are other teams who overachieved dramatically. And
Napoli were second, and they were only 8 votes behind Juve.
Yeah.
So it was tight. It was tight at the top, and then Roma were third. So, there you go. Coach of the season. This was a tightly contested category. Gasperini did not win. It was Maurizio Sarri.
Yeah, fair.
Just though, I think it was like 1% above Di Francesco and then Allegri.
To be fair, Di Francesco's done a very, very good job there as well.
And Simone
CM Fox thinks team of the season should be Spal.
I liked what they did. Like when I looked at them before the season, I thought just based on who they had in the squad and who they'd brought in, I thought they kind of did it the right way. They got guys in that had like Serie A experience. I quite liked the way they went about it. So I was happy to see them still.
Goal of the season. You ready for this one? Mauro Icardi, second against Milan on match day 8.
Goal of the season.
Goal of the season. I don't think that was goal of the season. There was that Immobile one I mentioned before. There was the Mertens one against Lazio. Remember his was it Van Basten thing?
Yeah.
That was a good one as well. There's a couple of Brignoli's Milan one, even though that wasn't the best goal. Just the fact that keeper scored it.
See, I'd be inclined to give it to that as well. Just never mind how good the other ones were. A goalkeeper scored a last-minute equaliser, first point in Serie A against Milan.
Yeah,
Douglas Costa got an absolute beaut against
Benevento. That was the second goal of the season. That was number 2 in the vote. So yeah, that was a really good one as well.
Chich, obviously, as well.
Yeah. Signing of the season. Easy one. Skriniar by a country mile. And then Douglas Costa was second. Yeah. And then tied in third as Under and Kolarov at Roma.
No Ilicic there either, no?
It was there, but it didn't get very much of the vote, sorry.
Kulu for Torino. He was signing this season.
Yeah. No, he wasn't. Worst signing of the season. This is an easy one as well.
Big Nico
Kalinic. And then closely followed by Andre Silva.
Closely followed by Ricardo Rodriguez.
He was closely followed by Nani at Lazio. So we had that. Loser of the season. I love loser. This was easy. This is Italy and Ventura. Christ almighty.
Throw Andrea Conti in there as well.
No, what did he do? Did
Yeah, he got injured.
Yeah.
That's not loser. That's not loser material. No.
Maybe Patania based on his extracurricular activity.
Patania, a veteran player of the season. So this is somebody over 30. Oh, I don't know. Hold on. Yeah, veteran player first, yeah. Over 30, 35 or over at the start of the season. Buffon. Although, see, I think that's been hijacked by Juve fans. Quagliarella was next with he got 35%. Then Rodrigo Palacio was third. Sergio Polisi and Stefano Sorrentino were amazing as always. How come the people don't understand?
It's just the big club bias.
Don't understand. Young player of the season, easy again. Patrick Cutrone.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Torreira
was there, but he was miles down.
Chiesa, did he qualify for the award?
He did qualify. He was third in the award. Cengiz was second. And then Jan Caramo from Inter. So there you go. People actually voted for Jakob Jankto Udinese.
That's just on your Missio refreshing your fucking browser.
Probably. And then the big one. The Marco Materazzi Award for Greatness.
This was close this year, wasn't it?
It was. But once again, it was won by the man, the legend, Marco Materazzi.
It's well deserved.
As always.
What a guy. What a man.
He must have a 100% record in that competition, it's more impressive than Juve's 7 Scudetti in a row.
He just bleeds greatness.
Someday Zlatan will win that award, though. Someday.
So maybe. That's probably like the only thing Zlatan probably couldn't do, though. He could do everything else, maybe not that.
Matrix.
What is anything else? Let's have a look at the comments. Belotti, he was rubbish, Paddy. He was crap. What happened?
Yeah. It was injuries, and I think there was a lot of pressure, kind of, I suppose, on him as well to deliver and keep up the high level of performances and the expectations he'd set, and didn't do it. Yeah, Iago Falque even outshone him this season. There you go.
Christ. Well, there you go. That says it all. That's pretty much it.
That's Serie A.
We've smashed it.
That's a bit emotional, guys.
Well, we're not going anywhere. We are in this particular.
Not to Russia. We're not going to Russia.
No, we're not. No, it's just our World Cup.
Who needs it?
Who exactly? I'm more about the Confederations Cup. Me, I like that much better.
The UEFA Nations League.
Yeah, I'm more excited about that. Can't wait for the UEFA Nations League. Christ. So that's Serie A this season. Are we happy with Serie A this season? Summing up.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Serie A was good this season. It makes a change.
It's one of the better seasons, actually.
Well, yeah. Like, I couldn't believe on Sunday when Inter and Lazio were having their ding-dong and people were watching Barcelona versus bloody
Real Sociedad.
Real Sociedad. What are you doing with your life? That's what I wanted to say to them.
And now you have.
I have, and everybody heard me. Right, so there we go. That was a long one, people. Thank you for lasting with us for this long. I'm going to do the spiel. Shop underneath in the link. Go to the shop because it's lovely and it helps us do more of this. And it means
Show
we
off
can.
your mug.
Yeah.
You can get a mug. Like it's back to front, but you get the idea.
Ooh.
And then this one's got Cannavaro on it, lifting the World Cup. That was when the World Cup was interesting. That's when people used to like the World Cup, when it wasn't just a money-grabbing tournament from FIFA. When it actually meant something as well. That's what this is. The Cannavaro World Cup up here. Brilliant. Buy one of them. They're lovely. And they make everything taste better as well, which is surprising. You never would have thought. I was just drinking some water and I was like, wow, this tastes like amazing water. I was like, yeah, there you go. It's because of the cup. So yeah, but you can't just get cups. If you look at Conor Clancy, behind him there's a clock. You could get a clock similar to that, but it'll have Gabriel Batistuta or Javier Zanetti in it or Paolo Maldini in it or something like that. So you can get one of them as well. So yeah, there's lots of other stuff. So go and click on the links, social media, and all that rubbish. We'll have some transfer stuff, obviously, during the summer when things happen and Milan get booted out of Europe and all that kind of stuff. So keep an eye on ForzaItalianFootball.com. Guys, have you got anything left to say? Any last messages for the people?
As regular host, I want to thank everyone who's been tuning in. It's been good to see a few of the usuals popping up in the comments tonight. Aaron Holland, Jax, CM Fox, you guys know who you are. It really does help when you guys come on and keep the comments going. You help us get through every single week. And it's just nice to know there are people who are listening and watching. So thank you for everything this year, chaps. I love you all.
Oh, what about you, Paddy? Have you got anything to say to the people? We are the
go
people,
Atalanta,
Paddy.
go.
Oh, hashtag.
Yes,
Paddy,
Atalanta live.
You forgot your hashtag, right?
I did.
There we go. Hashtag Atalanta Life. That's us out, guys. We'll see you at some point during the season. There's some videos going up, so look out for them as well on the channel. So until then, ciao for now.
Ciao.